It is I, Sir Crandall of Camelot, loyal servant to her serene holiness, Saint Sybil the Unshod. Meadow, thou vile sorcerer, for thy crimes against church and crown, I shall have thy head.
Hey everyone, Wandering Bard here, and sadly I will not be getting to do an analysis of Sir Crandall of Camelot, but I am very happy to finally be getting to do an analysis of Clive Rosfield. So I previously did a video where I covered all of the story beats of the game, and with Clive being the protagonist, a lot of what I told was his story. But I didn't get to dive very heavily into the theming of the game in that video or into Clive's personal character arc. So in this video I won't be doing a blow-by-blow of every single story beat, but I will be going through Clive's personal journey as a character. So if you're not already familiar with the plot of this game, you should probably watch my other video first so that you won't get lost during this one. Link is in the description, or you can use the card up in the top right. Clive's journey is of particular interest to me because, contrary to what all the marketing for the game would have had us to believe, his journey isn't all about revenge. That is where it begins, but for me watching, what his journey is really about is about healing through relationships, which I have previously covered during the Lightning video. It's about healing through accepting a purpose, and the difference between purpose and destiny. So in this video, I'm going to be exploring those themes through Clive's character arc. Let me know down in the comments how you would have approached Clive's character, and please consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy these types of videos and you want to see more like them, because character analyses are a lot of what I do here on this channel. I really love making them, and I really hope that y'all are enjoying watching them. Okay, let's get started.
You have been blessed, Joshua. Blessed to be a dominant, to wield the power of an icon. Our family has been chosen to share that power with the people. So that is what we must do.
So the reason that I chose to start with this scene, even though Clive isn't actually in it, is because I talked in the beginning about how important Clive's relationships were to him, and I think the one that he has with his father is going to be one that many people will overlook. A lot of people, when thinking about Clive, are going to focus on either his brotherly love for Joshua or his eventual romance with Jill, and those are both things that I do plan to talk about. But I think that arguably just as important, if not more, is Clive's relationship with his father, Duke Elwyn. Because Clive is very much his father's son. His mother, Annabella, hated him from the moment that the Phoenix rejected him as its dominant, but his father was the one who valued him and raised him. And even though we only get to see them in one scene together, it is very evident, I think, that the values that Duke Elwyn showed in his life had a significant impact on Clive as a person. Because, in stark contrast to Annabella, who viewed nobility as a privilege to be protected, Duke Elwyn saw nobility as an obligation to his people, to protect them and serve them. So he fought from the front line, he bonded with his soldiers, or shields as they were called, and he did all of this to protect his people from the encroaching blight. He even tried to improve life for the bearers who lived in Rosaria, who as a reminder are seen as less than human by most people. And these are the types of values that he instills in his two sons, which is where Clive's writing subverts expectations. Because Clive was very much set up to be a bitter and resentful person. He was rejected by the Phoenix as its dominant, and his kid brother Joshua was picked instead. The Phoenix did bless Clive with a portion of its fire so he could serve as Joshua's first shield, but a shield is all that he'll ever be. He won't inherit the throne despite being the brave, strong older son, and now his mother hates him for all of that. Normally this type of situation would be used to write a sympathetic villain, or else a really resentful anti-hero. But Clive shows zero resentment over being rejected by the Phoenix. He does come off wistful at times, which is reasonable, but he wholeheartedly embraces his duty as Joshua's shield, because he understands that his and Joshua's roles are not privileges, but duties to fulfill. And it's not hard to see who he got that from.
Louder, my friends! Louder!
The lump sum of it is that Clive, Joshua, and their father, they're all genuinely good men, and as such they've earned the loyalty and the respect of their people. The camaraderie there is one of the things that struck me the most when I played through the demo of this game, and it all sets us up to like Rosaria and its people, and to root for them during their war with the Ironblood. Not just because they're the main characters, but because they're good men. And then they died.
Stay back! I'm warning you!
Run, Joshua, run! No! Hey. Please! Stop it!
So, the Holy Empire of Sanbreque betrays Rosaria and assassinates Duke Elwyn, and then Ifrit, this second icon of fire, appears and kills Joshua and destroys the fortress they're all staying in. And on top of all of this, when Imperial soldiers come into the rubble to search for survivors, Clive finds out that the person behind all of this is his mother, Annabella. And the only reason that she doesn't kill Clive right then and there is that she feels she could maybe make some use of him as a soldier. So she has him branded with the brand of a bearer and forces him into the Imperial front line. And he stays there for 13 years trying desperately just to survive. His chance of freedom comes when the Iron Kingdom marches on Dhalmekia and brings Shiva's Dominant to bear against Titan. Despite having zero stake in this battle, the Empire apparently considers Shiva to be an issue, and they sent a unit of soldiers, including Clive, to the battleground with strict orders to kill her. Clive plays a pretty pivotal role in bringing her down, only to find out that Shiva's Dominant is in fact Jill Warwick, a girl from the northern tribes that Clive grew up with and that he loved as though his sister. With no plan and barely a shred of hope to survive, Clive tries to escape with Jill, but he definitely would have died right there if Sid hadn't shown up and saved the day. Sid takes Jill back to his hideaway for medical attention, and of course, Clive goes with him.
What do you mean to do with her?
Do with her? Why, nothing. Her life is her own now. If I wanted to use her, do you think I'd be talking to you? All I want to do is help. Dominance like her, branded like you.
Having Jill back in his life is important for Clive because it gives him something worth caring about. This is another place where Clive's writing subverts our expectations because for 13 years, he's been mourning his family and dreaming of revenge against their killers. And we would expect someone in that situation to be completely grim, stripped of all other cares and emotions, but he's not that at all. Like, yeah, he cares about Jill, but he also does help out when wounded bearers are brought back to the hideaway, and he's cordial to the people around him. He's still a good man, he's just lost, which is reasonable. Because again, for the past 13 years, he's been surviving, not living. And he clung to revenge because it was the only thing he had left to give his life meaning after everything else that happened. It's still something he's determined on, but it didn't come at the cost of his humanity. It's just all that he had to live for until he found Jill again. But it very much is still something that he wants, and while Jill recovers from her injuries, he and Sid go to Lost Wing, where rumor has it, a Dominant of Fire has been seen. And that causes his path to cross with Benedicta, who I also previously did a video on. As Dominant of Garuda, Benedicta is easily one of the most powerful people in the world, and no common soldier would have any hope of going against her and winning. But Clive is no ordinary soldier. He's been blessed by the Phoenix and is therefore quite able to stand up against a Dominant. But even if he wasn't so uniquely prepared for this encounter, I doubt he would have cared. His determination to find his brother's killer was too great to let anything stop him, and that iron will of his is a quality that I'll be referencing again during this video. He was able to defeat Benedicta, and he received a blessing from Garuda when he did so, but even his power has limits when Benedicta fully transforms into her icon. At least, at first it does. Turns out there's more to him than even he knew. Yep, you're seeing that right. Ifrit, the second icon of fire that Clive has been searching for, is, well, Clive. Clive is the one who killed his brother. By this point, we have seen a couple of times that a dominant can lose control of their icon, so this isn't super hard to believe, but there's still some questions. Notably, how did Clive not realize that he was Ifrit? And if he was Ifrit, then who is the icon of fire that appeared in Lostwing? Because the rumors were true, Benedicta did capture a dominant of fire in Lostwing, but said dominant, aka Lord Margrace, escaped after Clive fought Benedicta. Problem is, Clive doesn't care right now. The moment he came to and realized that he was Ifrit, all he could see in himself was a monster, and he wanted to die.
I killed Joshua! I killed them all! I'm a monster! And I deserve to die! So end it! End it now!
What pulls him out of this, at least temporarily, is that Gav, Sid's best scout who Clive sort of befriended during the whole Benedicta arc, had put so much time into finding this Lord Margrace and was in fact still on his trail. So Sid convinces Clive to hang around to hear Gav out, and Clive ends up saving Gav's life. They're able to confirm that, yep, there was another dominant of fire out there, even if they didn't know who exactly it was, and that gave Clive a path to find answers. But even better, I think, was what happened when they got back to the hideaway.
What? You think I'm having you on?
Clive! Your friend! She's awake!
Right.
Go to her, you fool.
Jill waking up is probably the best thing that could have happened for Clive, because she once again gives him something to care about. This is technically true of Gav too, because being able to save Gav was the first thing that really pulled Clive out of his misery. But Jill takes things further because she gives Clive someone who understands him. After being forced by the Iron Kingdom to use her powers to commit atrocities, she also understands the notion of feeling like a monster. And she continues to believe in Clive's goodness even when Clive himself doesn't. Like, Clive was scared to face her at first because he was afraid of being judged harshly as the one who killed Joshua. But Jill insists that there must be more to the story, and she encourages him to go back to Phoenix Gate to find answers.
I need to know what really happened. And so do you. You need to know for certain. And if what you told me is true, and you did what you said you did, then we will face it together.
So together they make their way through Rosaria, and they see how much worse things have gotten since it became a province of Sandbreck. Notably, bearers were treated worse than ever, and that policy is enforced by Clive's traitorous mother, Annabella. When they finally do reach Phoenix Gate, Clive has another vision that confirms the truth. He awoke as Ifrit's dominant at Phoenix Gate, lost control of his power, and did indeed kill Joshua. In his mind, he dissociated himself from the memory of what happened to spare himself the guilt. What interests me here is that, in the context of events that happen later in the story, this vision is a manipulation of Ultima, our villain, because Ultima wants Clive to accept his role as Ifrit's dominant so he can become the vessel Ultima needs. But what ends up happening is that Clive comes to a much healthier place, partly because he can tell there's still more to the story, and he can tell that something or someone is manipulating things behind the scenes. But more importantly is that, now that he's done running from the past, he can look forward to the future. And until now, he's been scared to do that, because, in his words,
It was only Joshua that kept me going. I swore that I would avenge his death. That I would kill his killer. That was the only thing that gave my life any meaning. But if it was me who killed Joshua and Murdoch and all the others, then why the hell am I still breathing?
when he accepts that he can't change the past, he goes from, I can't be allowed to live, to, well, I am living and I'd better use that to make things right. And very soon after, he gets a vision of what making things right would look like.
what happened here.
I'm sorry, Lady Hannah. You deserved so much better. All of these people did. Better than my mother.
Like, traveling through Rosaria already opened Clive's eyes to the suffering around him, but this is where the inhumanity of it really hits home. Because everything happening here goes completely against the values that Clive's father instilled in him. Bearers were being slaughtered, wars raging across Valisthea, and Clive isn't content anymore to sit back and watch it happen. He and Jill go back to Sid and they agree to fight for his cause, to create a world where people can live on their own terms. And what's beautiful about this, at least to me, is that the purpose that he's embracing here is ultimately the same one that he embraced even as a teenager, which is to look after people. It's the one he's always gravitated towards, whether it was in Rosaria, or helping Gav, or now as he goes back to the Hideaway. Clive genuinely feels most at home when he's looking after people, and right now he sees helping Sid as the best way to do that. And later, when Sid dies, Clive takes up his mantle and promises to keep fighting for freedom for all people. And he continues doing that for 5 years during the game's second time skip. There's actually a story arc that I didn't get to go over during my story summary, which was when Clive was trying to reach the Iron Kingdom's Mother Crystal. He goes through Rosaria at that time and he encounters the Black Shields, a new order of shields that are really just Annabella's grunt enforcers. Of all the enemies that Clive fights during his journey, this is among the most personal, because this goes against everything he ever embraced as a shield. For him, being a shield was literally that, to protect people, and an honorable task. And so seeing these enforcers using the term shields is a perversion of everything that he's ever held dear, and he takes that very personally. Looking after people was never an obligation for him. He chose this, and he embraces it. He always has. And as Clive continues on his journey to destroy the Mother Crystals, he finds that he has more to care about and protect. He and Jill are slowly falling for each other, which I think especially comes in during the whole Iron Kingdom arc, and he's also eventually reunited with Joshua, who was Lord Margrace's actual identity. These two relationships bring out Clive's protective side the most, and they give him the strength to take on foes as powerful as Hugo Kupka and Dion Lesage. For Ultima, this is a problem, because again, Ultima has his own designs for Clive, and he's been manipulating everything behind the scenes, setting things up for Clive to absorb the power of other icons, so he can become the perfect vessel for Ultima's consciousness. And while Clive is indeed absorbing power from icons, his bonds with the people around him give him the strength to resist Ultima's will. So Ultima needs to separate Clive from his loved ones. Or worse, he watches as Clive begins to do the work for him.
Leaving so soon, Mythos? It's the king. Indeed. You may kneel before Barnabas Tharm, Warden of Ash and King of Waloed. Get back.
Where Clive's tendency to look after people becomes unhealthy is when he begins to actively push away help and shoulder too much of the burden himself. And there's layers to this. Like, he took on Hugo Kupka all by himself, but at that time there were a whole bunch of enemy soldiers around, so he asked Jill and Gav to cover for him while he fought Hugo. And he did fight alongside Joshua against Bahamut, which is great because Bahamut would have quite literally destroyed the world if they hadn't. But when he goes up against King Barnabas, he pushes Joshua and Jill away and insists on fighting alone. Twice, actually. And there's multiple reasons why he does this. Part of it is because Joshua's body is feeling the strain from keeping Ultima imprisoned inside him, long story. And Jill was also weakened from being Barnabas' captive the second time they fought. Calling on the power of an icon also takes a terrible toll on the body, and so Clive doesn't want his loved ones to bear that burden. But especially after Barnabas trounces him in battle the first time they fight, refusing help feels nonsensical, and also again plays right into Ultima's designs. And his loved ones respond to this in different ways. Jill, after they lose to Barnabas the second time, willingly gives Clive her icon, hoping to give Clive the power that he needs if he's going to insist on fighting alone. Jill has actually been a pretty constant supporting presence for Clive during his mission, which I'll talk about more when I do her analysis. Joshua meanwhile gets angry at Clive, especially when he learns what Jill did. Beneath that anger he's worried because this battle against Ultima isn't one that Clive can win all by himself. Joshua insists that this is their mission and that Clive needs help, but he keeps refusing help. And it's not until he does defeat Barnabas that he realizes everything he's been doing, fighting icons, pushing people away, even willingly accepting Shiva from Jill, was indeed playing right into Ultima's designs and did forge him into the vessel Ultima wanted. So he finally does accept that yes, he needs help. And not just from Joshua, but all of his friends come to save him from Ultima's army of Akashic. And when Ultima later uses illusions of those friends to try and convince Clive to abandon hope, Joshua was able to break through the spell and reach Clive to snap him out of it. And finally, Joshua giving Clive his power is what allows Clive during the final battle to stand up to Ultima and win. Which in a way is where we've come full circle. Because as much as Clive looking after people became a general overall purpose for him, the person he always cared about the most was his brother. Joshua was the person that he swore to protect, and he's been doing that wherever he could throughout the game. But here in the end game we've come full circle. And it's Joshua who's looking after Clive now and giving him the power he needs to keep fighting.
So driven by his own will alone that he shunned the one thing that could have made him truly powerful. Faith. The same faith people now place in you. Faith that you will fulfill their dream, Sid's dream, of creating a better world for us. Faith that you will follow in Father's footsteps and save those who need saving most. Faith that you will answer Jill's plea to save yourself. The difference is, Clive, that you chose to listen, and that is what has steeled our bonds.
The final battle against Ultima is what really nails home for me the theming of purpose versus destiny. Destiny is something that's chosen for people. It's a path that's thrust upon someone's shoulders. And everyone from Annabella to Barnabas to Ultima has their own idea of what Clive's destiny should be. Purpose, meanwhile, is something that you choose for yourself. And some might say that Clive's original purpose, which was to be Joshua's shield, was one that was thrust upon him by Duke Elwyn and the Phoenix, but throughout his life, Clive has willingly and wholeheartedly embraced that purpose. And for me, this final battle exemplifies that because this is just Clive against the fully powered Ultima. Dion has died, Joshua gave Clive his power and then died, and yet Clive is able to stand against this godlike being and win. Partly because of that iron will that I referenced earlier, but largely because of the faith and trust that other people have put in him. He literally has the hopes of humanity riding on his shoulders, and he embraces that purpose to fight for them. And that faith and that purpose ultimately prove to be his deliverance. He stands against Ultima, absorbs Ultima's power, and then uses it to destroy all the crystals, consigning the power of magic itself to the flames, but at the cost of his own life. This, for me, was a huge emotional gut punch to watch. His death didn't feel dissatisfying from a writing standpoint the way that Benedicta's did, but it did definitely hit hard, especially watching Jill and Torgal's reactions when they realized that he wasn't coming home. I am glad that as far as his arc was concerned, he ended in a satisfying place, because his arc ended with him fulfilling the purpose that he chose for himself. I just wish that he could have made it home to Jill, especially after everything he suffered and sacrificed. But I genuinely did love his writing, I loved his whole journey, and he's definitely one of my favorite protagonists in this series. And that ends my analysis of Clive Rosfield. I really hope that y'all enjoyed watching this video. It's one that I've been looking forward to making for a long time, and it means the world when y'all do interact with it. Please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed, sub to the channel for more videos, and also consider joining the Discord if you want another space to discuss gaming and characters with people. Thank you so much for watching, thanks for the continued support, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Have a good one.